And hello, everybody. Welcome back to another Daily Dirty podcast. I'm your host, John Croft. How's everybody living? Today, I'm going to continue on with my mental health podcast. The wife and I have been doing a couple of these booths here where we live at. Of course, she makes these beads and a couple other things I don't think I have in my room right now. So I'm going to kind of put that out there. They're kind of sponsoring this one today. And I'll put a link to their website in the description. But we went and we did this booth with my wife's sister at in Paris, Texas, at the fairgrounds, and we were indoors this time, so it was pretty good. And next to us was, I guess they would be called counselors. It was this lady and her daughter that was there. And basically, I guess it was like a couple years ago, we had a tornado over in Powderly, Texas. And it actually went down the blacktop of our street, not our dirt road, but our street. And it tore up some houses and stuff like that. And they basically do like relief for that. It's kind of like FEMA, but not FEMA. So they help kind of with that, but they help also what happens afterwards. So when you lose a lot of things in a natural disaster like that, I'm talking, a tornado or a flash flood, or, we don't have any earthquakes here, but there's a mental aftermath that you kind of run into. Like, say if you had a loved one that passed away, or pretty much everything you've worked your life off, you built, your house and all the other kind of, and possessions are possessions or whatever, but you still need them to kind of live. And your house is just destroyed, and you got insurance, pretty much, companies just pretty much screwing you over, not giving you what your house is worth, or barely enough to even put it back the way it was. So they kind of provide that service. And I will have their website and everything linked in with this podcast as well. And one of the young ladies, I don't remember her name to save my life, but I'll put it in there as well down at the bottom. She also has some grief counseling with that as well. And it's nonprofit of helping people out. And we had a really good discussion about that because the lady there and her daughter, they both have ADHD as well, like pretty bad. And I kind of let them know about my podcast. And I was like, well, I got a podcast out there and it's not the greatest right now, and I'm working on it. But I talk a lot about mental health because my wife and I did go to college for it. I never finished. My wife didn't finish either. I think she needs like a couple credits. I need like a couple credits, but it's just at that point in your life, I really don't want to do it for a living. Honestly, it wears you down, trying to help other folks, and depending on what you do, mine was for child advocacy, helping kids that have real bad depression, or they kind of grew up in a really bad household as I did. And what I try to help them out with how I dealt with it and some of the mental baggage that comes along with it and how to deal with that later on in life and things like that. So I kind of wanted to talk a little bit about that today. Oh, also, before I forget, Courtney, she was a young lady we met up there also, and she's pretty cool. She has a really cool personality, and she's like us people, she's like Dungeons and Dragons, and she had these dragon rings on her finger, and she had one of the wolf, and very interesting conversation. Just that kind of personality that just shines. It's pretty cool. She's like a natural saleswoman, and she could just good conversation. I love having conversation with people like that because it just kind of opens up the oars of folks, And so we had a really good conversation. I told her I would mention her in my podcast as well. She became a subscriber, and just want to give a shout out to her. She works at Planet Fitness over in Paris, Texas. I mean, my wife and I used to go there, but we quit because we wanted, more free weight, which they didn't have. But she works in a morning shift. We seen her there like once or twice. We couldn't quite remember where we had saw her at, but personality was just freaking cool. I can sit there and I talk to her forever. We talk about Dungeons and Dragons. I mean, we're into that realm. When I used to play back in the day when I was younger, and she was part of a group and things like that. So it was pretty cool. And the reason why I mention that is with mental health and ADHD, there's a lot of fears and there's a lot of things that you have to overcome. I kind of told her that she'd be really good with podcasts, and I might see if I can invite her one day to do a podcast with me. We can, talk about some things. And I love doing that. I mean, I love doing it with my wife, Tisha. She's pretty awesome to be able to, have, a good conversation on, mental health. So I'll get to that, one day, and hopefully we'll get us have a podcast together and talk about some things. So with having ADHD and meeting people, the fears I talk about is sometimes you have a fear, and I guess it's different for everybody. And I always talk about my fears and me and things that I've seen. It's not me giving anybody advice. I would never do that because one, I'm not licensed to give people advice. It's more my opinion of, well, not really my opinion. It's what I go through. And if it helps others, then awesome. So one thing that I learned growing up is I was a very, very shy child. Reason being is I grew up in a really physical and mental abusive household where just a lot of things that happened. I mean, it's just like everything was your fault, your fault that you were born, and just a lot of mental stuff like that. And my mom, she still wasn't out of a party stage when I was born. I think she was 21 when I was born. She had kids early in life. And she used to always tell me, golly, I can't go out and have any fun because of you damn kids, because of you, there's always something, you always need something. And as a kid, you don't really think about it, because your brain hasn't quite developed and be able to grab concepts like that. And all you do is you're just like, wow, okay, I guess this is how the normal is. I've talked in another podcast about, about hate and racism and people against religion and all this other kind of stuff, in which, those are still your opinions and how you want to do things in life. And I'm not knocking anybody. The thing is, a lot of stuff is taught as a child. And the reason why I bring that up is I was taught that I was nothing, that I would never be nothing, that I would never succeed in life, that, I'm always going to be a piece of shit, excuse my language, but I mean, it's just the facts, right? And I'm just giving it to you raw. It's just, you grow up with this mentality like that, and I just stopped talking. I didn't talk for a long time as a kid. Like, and whenever I opened my mouth, it was like, I'm either getting smacked for something or I say the wrong thing, because you're just in eggshells all the time. And you're a child. You don't really know what you can and can't say until they say that's a bad or that's good, or, and when it's mostly bad, you're just like, shit, why should I even say anything? With that, and being very malnutritioned, not clothed properly, looking like, I mean, back in the day, back in the 80s, growing up, I mean, if you weren't wearing clothes that were kind of in style, or you weren't wearing this or that, or wearing glasses that were too big for your face because your mom's too cheap or too broke, or whatever the case, more her money more towards drugs than it did any of us. And you look at that, and as a child, people make fun of you. I mean, I used to get jumped for wearing glasses. I used to get jumped because my clothes didn't fit me right. I got jumped for having duct tape on my shoes because my mom didn't want to buy me another pair of shoes. And these were Payless Pro Wings. Them some bitches last me 3 freaking years. You know how much I grew in 3 years? Anyway. So when you go through all that, and as a child, having, you're hyperactive, and that's kind of the early on stages of ADHD, ADD, and things like that. And, my mom was going to put me on Ritalin. We'd be like if we ever went to a doctor. Like I've probably been to the dentist more with being with my wife than I have my whole life because we just couldn't afford it. It's like, you just brush your teeth, and we didn't get to eat sweets unless it was Kool-Aid. That was about it. We didn't get to eat sweets. That was adult food. It wasn't for children, you know. So when you go through all this and you kind of get older, I ran away from a children's home when I was like 14. Okay. Now I still went to school because I realized that school is very important to get somewhere. Not only that, my mom never graduated. So I have this internal thing is like, I'm going to outdo you. I'm going to graduate high school. I'm going to make something myself because I did opposite. And not everybody's mind works that way from what I've seen. And it doesn't mean that I'm special. I think I'm very fortunate that my mind geared me away from, one, not doing drugs, not being an alcoholic, not being a sex addict, doing things opposite of what my mom did, studying as best I can, trying to do what I can to be, successful in life. Okay. And I had a stepdad, but he wasn't any better. So the one thing I can say about my stepdad is I got my work ethic and the ability to work on cars and the love for cars. That's about it, positively, that I got from him. So as you get older, and this is for the men out there, and I don't know about every man, me, I wanted to be a provider one day, I didn't dwell on that too much because one, my mind wasn't like that. My mind was in survival mode. So I've always had a job or two jobs. I graduated high school. I got a trade. I became a plasterer. It was construction. Did that for a while. Went to the military. And it wasn't until I got in the military that I found my voice. Okay. I didn't have that many friends. And the friends I did had later on in life, I figured out they weren't really my friends. They just used me. Used me as the gag, as the joker, the jester, the kick around guy, kind of like, hey, this dude's ugly, so it makes me look way better. So I get all the girls. I mean, I can go on and on about that. And the bullying and stuff like that, it lasted for a while until I started fighting back. And I'm not going to get into that in this episode, but when I joined the military, I found my voice to where I try to crawl out of this shell that I made myself as a child to protect myself. Okay. I started networking a little bit more. I gained some weight. I was able to afford my own clothes. I was able to find my person as me of who I wanted to be. Okay. So joining the military helped me out and gave me some discipline, helped me with being a better man in my eyes. I'm not saying everybody go join the military because there's a lot of bullshit that went along with that. But I found out a few things. One is that I enjoy talking to people. I'm a very social butterfly type of guy, And I had this ability to where it was easy for people to talk to me. Okay. And I don't know what it is about that or if it's my personality. I mean, I've mentioned in some other, podcasts that I can be standing in a line somewhere and people just start talking to me. Next thing you know, I know their whole life story. I'm like, oh, right. Okay. And it's not that I judge them for anything. I enjoyed listening. I enjoy, being able to meet that person. And for some reason, which I'm bad for it, I don't know if it's an ADHD thing or what, 9 times out of 10, I don't remember their name. I'll remember their face, but I won't remember their name. But they always remember my name. I got people that I knew in second grade, they remember my name, and I don't even know who the hell they are. I had a guy come up to me one time, like, hey, John Croft, man, we was in second grade together and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, what was your name? I don't remember me. I don't remember you, man. Sorry. I, I just don't. But finding that voice kind of helped me out. And that was one of my personality traits that helped me shine in a lot of things. I didn't really go into sales. Actually, I sold used cars for a while, but I got a conscience. I mean, we were selling junk to people that could barely afford it. And I would take my commission I made off that and fix their vehicles so their family can get to where they needed to go. You know, what kind of salesperson does that? I didn't really do good at it in that aspect, but you find your way. You don't all everybody doesn't always find the way. Like I said, I got very fortunate that I was able to find that. Now, did it help me in life? It did some. Did I utilize it at full potential? I did for a while. I had my own business with a buddy of mine, you know, where we fix, you know, people's computers and stuff like that. And I enjoyed that part of IT because I got to interact with the people, you know, and I was able to help them out. And I didn't charge them an arm and a leg, but I did good with sales. I just let them know, hey, this, and this, I can help you with this. And I'm pretty much 50% cheaper than everybody else that's not trying to screw you over. And being in their lives was great, you know, and you get that rapport. Okay. These are all things that kind of help me come out of my shell, right? So fast forward to like how it is now, you know, doing these pop-ups, you know, are really cool. I enjoy, first of all, because I get to do it with my wife and I get to see how much she enjoys the work that she puts in to make these products that they sell. I mean, they're just nice. There's just the personality is there with each thing that she makes, and you know, people buy it. You know, it's really good products that she makes. I mean, that's why I'm growing out my beard, you know, to get the beard oil thing going. The beard, I have very sensitive skin, and the beard oil that she makes is all natural. And my beard is that kind that's just, it's rough. You know, it's like wire, man. But with her beard oil, for one, I don't get the bumps on my face. It's real smooth. I feel like I'm a sales guy, right? It's real smooth. It's real soft. It's like, man, very, very soft. But, you know, I got to talk to a few people, you know, and get, and kind of branch out of it and network. And believe it or not, it's hard when you first try to do something like that growing up, or even in the state that some people are at right now. It's like, man, John, you make it sound like it's so easy. It's not. It's not like I woke up one day and I'm like, oh, here I am. No, it takes time. It takes navigation in your mind to find what fits for you and what feels right. You know, it's not like, you know, we're supposed to make mistakes in life. I mean, I'm not saying go out and kill somebody. Oh, I mistakenly killed you. I'm not saying that. You know, you're going to run into things that just aren't for you. You might run into crowds. It's like, you know, this just ain't my crowd. You find those things. It got so much to where I started to be able to feel when I'm around people what kind of demeanor they have, if I wanted to be a part of that. And that helps out. Now, with the mental health aspect of it, of ADHD, is sometimes your mind's going really fast. And it's like I had talked to Courtney, and her and I was outside talking because I was trying to move the truck closer so we can load everything up, was finishing up. And it was like having someone that's like that, you know, the conversation is like with my wife. She understands me. She understands my ADHD. Her and I have Tish and I have very deep conversations. And that's one thing I love about us is we talk about everything, right? And this Courtney person has kind of that personality where she's kind of a sales, but she's very sincere. You can tell she actually cares. So shout out to you, Court, on that. And a couple other things I just wanted to mention real quick. And again, this is just going to be a short part. I always say that it ends up being like an hour long and shit. I'm going to be working on some shorts on YouTube for some upcoming podcasts I'm going to be working on. I'm going to try to start putting out more of the products that my wife sells. The beard oil, there's stuff for men and women. And also, I want to kind of get more to where I want to hear from people. It's not that I say this all the time. I'm not looking for subscribers for popularity or for money or anything like that. I generally want to be there for people to where we can have conversations, to where we can kind of get some awareness with mental health. And I don't think the country really cares about mental health that much. And everybody sees it. They don't really care unless it makes them money. Everybody's driven by this money thing. And I know why, because there's wants, but there's also needs. Like I don't make a whole lot where I work at. I make it just enough to where I can support my little family that I got, to barely pay our bills and things like that. Vacations, you better save up for a hot minute, but that's okay. Eventually it will get better, right? So trying to stay positive on that note. But, if you see this video, leave a comment. If you want to put something out there that's positive or some awareness on mental health, leave a comment. I'll talk about it. Even if you want to just reach out to me, you can hit me up on here and say, hey, I like what you say, or I don't like what you say. Let's talk about it. Let's get it out there. Let's communicate with it. That's all I ask. I'm a very genuine person. I care because I've been through a lot of crap, and there's people that's been probably way worse stuff than I have, and they don't have somebody that they can talk to. It's good to talk to counselors, but that's their job. This isn't my job. This isn't my hobby. This is just what I love doing. I love getting to know people. I love being there for people, and being able to even help out a little bit to kind of help ease some of the mental stress that comes along with either ADHD. If you have depression, I'll put a hotline if you're really depressed and you do need professional counseling. I can put that there too, because I've vetted these places, because I've been there and I overcome it. And the way I overcome it was talking to people that I trust. And I'm not expecting you to trust me, but sometimes talking to a stranger, it could be easier because one, I'm not going to judge you, two, you might not ever see me again, or you might never talk to me again, but you got it off your chest. That's helped me out. I've talked to strangers about something. Not the deep, dark stuff that's just keeps me up at night stuff. That's what my wife's for. I tell her, she knows everything about me. And if you don't have that, at least I can be a listening ear, or be able to give you some encouragement of things that worked for me that might work for you, or help you network and kind of see where it's at, I'm not going to blast your name off to everybody. Hey, this person's blah, 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 because I wouldn't want that to happen to me, because it's happened to me before. I had so many people say crap about me, I don't care, because they talk smack and I just kind of like, okay, that's supposed to affect me. How does it? Are you feeling better? That's my concern. And I smile, and it pisses them off even more because they knew they couldn't get to me. Even though deep down inside, does it hurt? Yeah, it's gonna, a little bit. Depends on the person. But having a nice, non-absorbent vest on is what you need. That's what helped me. You need a repellent where whatever goes on to you, it's just like, you can just dust it off. That's what I want to be here for people. I want that awareness out there to be like, hey, it's good to talk to some people, but sometimes people don't want to just go to a counselor because they get paid to do that. In my mind, it's just like, you might enjoy it, but come on, you don't get paid that much money. But psychologists that or professional psychologists, man, they can charge a lot of money an hour. I didn't want to go in that profession because I don't want to do it for the money. I want to do it to help, you know. So again, making this one short and sweet. I will go ahead and get everything done in here about the things I talked about. I will get my wife's website up there. Also, that one for the crisis line, and that one is it's got a little bit of everything in there, just for grievance, for natural disasters, just general grievance and things in life. Kind of the things I talk about on here. It's nonprofit, and it's for kind of a good cause. I mean, I don't think you have to donate to it. Maybe you can. Okay, I don't know. I haven't read the whole thing on that aspect, but they have people there, and this young lady, she's trying to get awareness out there as well. This is her side gig, besides the hotline for natural disaster and things like that. So I'll get her information put in here too. So in case anybody needs that, that's right there for you. I'm here for you. So reach out, leave a comment, let me know how things are going, and let's see if we can get a conversation going. It don't have to be recorded or nothing like that. We can talk via email, Instagram, DM, whatever. And if you want to put it out here a little bit, or if you want to get on my podcast and kind of talk about it, we can do it just voice, or we can do video and video, however you want to do it. Let's get a conversation going. So I just want to be there. But I appreciate everybody for listening in. Again, this is the Daily Dirty Podcast. I'm your host, John Croft. I hope everybody has a great, blessed day and a awesome Christmas coming around the corner. And just be safe.